So, Meatspace and cyberspace, how do we get the best of both? Are we going to get? All right. So, what was Brad was just talking about, how we haven't got the dream. What we want is the best of both. We want to maximize good interactions, minimize bad interactions. We want full cooperation without vulnerability. That comes from Mark Miller, our computer security fellow here at Foresight. Now, we try with human laws to establish this in our existing cities and countries with very mixed success. Now we're trying to do it online and in new physical communities. Let's look at online versus. So this is where we are. Humanity, we live in Meatspace. Some of you will recognize this from the comedy science fiction story about they're made of meat. We're made of meat. Now there are pleasures involved in being made of meat, but then things go bad over time, as meat tends to do. So there's a lot about longevity tomorrow. I want to call your attention to two specific things. One is there was a prediction earlier today that at some point we're going to get rid of Alzheimer's. We're actually much closer than people may realize. And Steve Fowkes, if you want to wave your hand, will be doing a lightning talk and a breakout on how close we are to getting rid of Alzheimer's. So those of you like me who have the genes for Alzheimer's might want to stop by there and find out how to do it. The other is anyone here who's interested in personal longevity. Tomorrow we have a lightning talk and a breakout on a landmark longevity study that you will want to join for sure. It costs a few $100s, but it's so valuable, even if you don't have the money. This is what credit cards are made for, okay? This is about your personal longevity. So join the landmark longevity study that's being discussed in a lightning talk and a breakout tomorrow. Okay, that's Meatspace. So cyberspace, these two areas conflict. We've got Meatspace, or as I like to call it, dirt space, which is the physical world. We have laws on paper, human courts, fiat currencies, commodities, physical war, all based on the dirt that you happen to be standing on. And this dirt has been fought over by primates for millennia. And certain primates won out over others. They got to make the laws, and that's what governs you. And then, in contrast, we have cyberspace with encryption. Eventually, we're going to have smart contracts. We already have cryptocurrencies. We are starting to see signs of cyber war, and it all takes place in some kind of cyber jurisdiction where they do things like vote on whether or not to split a cyber currency, which is not based on dirt. It's not a dirt-based decision. So there really is a different place here. But our reality is, some people would love to upload and live in cyberspace. Well, you can't do that. And I don't know if you ever will really be able to be independent, because there have to be computers and they're physical objects and they run on electricity. So how would you can't be independent of the physical world. But it's also no longer really possible to live in Meatspace. If you want to live a modern life, you have to engage. I'm going to skip over some of this. If you want to hear the full thing, come tomorrow to my breakout. But we have hybrid contracts. I just heard another, the historical example is Amex Mini Consulting. I also heard an example about automated incorporation of companies, where a lot of that process, which is usually done by lawyers involving pieces of paper, is now done by software code. To me, this sounds like a major plus. And in China, we know it's getting harder and harder to pay with cash. Now, it's very convenient, and you hear people rave about how convenient it is. Yes, it's very convenient, but all those are recorded and all that data goes to the Chinese government. So that's how we have increasing conflict and between these two spaces and increasing efforts from Meatspace to control cyberspace. So cyberspace can be revolting. So they're attempting to regulate or outlaw encryption. I heard again from Washington, D.C., a call that they really want to backdoor in on the encryption. How many times do we have to have this argument? Have they not noticed that they keep leaking all their secrets? the military, the US military leaks their secrets, the NSA leaks their secrets. How do they possibly think this is not going to happen again? They want to tax cryptocurrencies. They want backdoors. They have backdoors in the hardware. How many of you are familiar with the backdoors in the hardware? The chips. Okay, that's right? There are backdoors in the hardware. So you can think of this as sort of the revenge of Meatspace onto cyberspace. They want control. Australia, don't read all this. Australia is on the forefront of trying to crack down on what's going on online. So weaknesses of today's cyberspace that make it even more vulnerable. So we have notoriously insecure software. I mean, pretty much every day you wake up and there's a notification. It's like, you got to update this, you got to update that. Why do you have to update it? Well, it might be there's a new feature, but often these are security updates. They're patching holes in the software, and it's a continual battle. So, and we run on top of notoriously insecure operating systems as well. The security paradigm is still one we've been on for a long time, called access control lists. It's like a building with insufficient locks. They're just not secure. It actually is known how to do a secure operating system, and you can actually do a provably secure one, but it's more expensive. And it's hard to break into this because we have this extremely complicated ecosystem.
Shouldn't be hard to break into.
Right, shouldn't be hard to break into. So, but we're like in a situation of a frog in hot water, right? It's getting hotter and hotter. Eventually, if we have systems we really care about that we really don't want to go down, we're going to have to switch to something more secure. And those of you who care about computer security, check out the website agoric.com. So more negative interactions in this world of security last. Think about this. It's the most automated societies that are least secure to cyber attack, right? That would be us, basically. Even our electricity is vulnerable. And we've just recently had a bunch of power outages, right? How did that go? Just for a few days, it was for those people, this is a complete disaster. You could take down an entire region and not just for days, but for months. What would that be like if it happened suddenly? And what would that lead to if the people here, if it happened here, if the people here in government felt that this was caused by a foreign power, there'd be a Meatspace retaliation, right? We would regard it as a major assault on the United States if that happened here. So these cyber vulnerabilities could lead to serious Meatspace disasters, which is one reason we really have to fix them. So what's the opportunity? There is an opportunity here. We can do better. There is a vision of, well, we want to cut ourselves off from control from Meatspace. I'm not sure that's actually practical. What we can do, I think, is we want to go for maximum cybersecurity so that our cyberspace is not vulnerable because it makes Meatspace vulnerable. And that also gives us privacy. But I think we need to be connected to Meatspace reality. We need to be able, for example, to connect with the world banking system. Life without being able to connect to the world banking system is very difficult. It's just not a plausible goal. So what would be the suggestion? Well, it's hard to get an existing government to try new arrangements. California's too big, all the US states are too big, and they're too embedded in the existing system. What we can do is experiment in new jurisdictions, and that's being looked at by, for example, Charter Cities Institute. Do we have theirs? Mark Lutter in the back. Thank you, Mark. And there are other groups as well that are looking at this. There's also the Seasteading Institute, another organization that we like here at Foresight. That's where we can do some experimentation, both in terms of the computer security potentials. These could offer improved cybersecurity services. They could experiment with open source law such as ULEX. And we could see if some new ideas could take hold there. And then if they work well at that level, possibly spread outside. And with that, I think I am out of time, and we'll go to the questions. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So we'll start actually with our astute panel. If you have anything that you'd like to address first. Someone kicked me on my back, did they? Okay, there you go. I am very reserved. You guys don't have any questions? All right, well, while Aaron's running around looking for card questions, do we have anyone who wants to come up to the microphone? David always has something.
Just a question. You said that a provably secure system was expensive. Is that expensive in development costs or expensive in the running more slowly because it's got to do more work?
You can use that one up behind you.
Can I think what I was referring to is the effort it takes to code them. In other words, the actual development. I haven't heard that they're slower. I think it's more about the effort because every single time, every line of code you write, first you think about security. It's slower. It's just slower to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is right. The challenge is you have to rewrite all the software, and that is unfortunately not a minor challenge. All right, next we can look at your meticulous question where you've noticed that 8 of the top 10 cities in terms of cameras per population are currently Chinese, and you're asking when is this going to be the top 10 entirely dominated by China? When do you think that will be? You're not getting that? I think they turned it down.
That's okay.
The magic
Now,
mixer woman
here
will
it comes.
fix things for you.
They are magically noticing that I was talking. What I predicted was a year from now, it will be all 10 in China. Right now it's 8. And the interesting question is, well, how the heck are we going to know that, right? It's not like China says, hey, we're winning on this contest. There's a particular company that tries to track these things. And by making this prediction, I was sort of making a point saying, look, take a look at this list, first of all. Look at the current list. There's only 2 cities outside China now that make the list. One is London, interestingly. And the question would be, first, will it be China? Number 2, and then also, how will we know? And then finally, what does this mean? What is the trend, right? One quip I've heard is that China's heading for 1984 and the US is heading for Brave New World, whereas they're going for sort of a top-down hammer-style control, and we're going with the bamboozled idiot style control. And they both seem to be working just fine, but what kind of world is this, right? Let's do better.
Now, this is tracking, I presume, government-run cameras. Which,
I don't know, because, I mean, private cameras can share data with government, so I don't really know.
And they certainly are. All right. Do we have another question from the... we have a hand there, or we have Aaron coming back with some anonymous cowards questions? No, we're not going to say that. Okay, the question is, so how expensive was it to develop a secure OS? And I guess that's better a question for Mark or
yeah, that's
Dean or any of the other people if they're here.
These were fairly small projects. This is not, you don't need a Microsoft or a Google to do this. No, this is not that difficult.